Before we start, let me say something.
Let me come
It's
clean.
totally okay to agree or disagree, but if you could do it silently, that would be good. And then when the questions come up, you can ask questions, but try not to ask a question while the talk's going on itself, because it's sort of like a souffle. It needs to be cooked, and maybe you'll see it. So I'm not Eckhart Tolle. It's hard to disappoint anyone. I'm an Aquarian, and I like. Well, I've been here all week. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This will be our sixth talk in 4 days. And basically what we talk about really is nothing, in a sense. And hopefully you came in here with nothing, and you may not have known that. You're going to get nothing. And when you leave here, I hope you know you got nothing, really, because that's really the key. Because we're so trained to be looking from a point of view that causes us to be looking for something. And we're always looking in a certain way through a format called doing and having. And the one topic we're going to be sharing tonight can't be approached. It doesn't mean that's the wrong way to approach it. It can't be approached because it's closer than your breath. St. Francis of Assisi said it beautifully. He says, what's looking is what you're looking for. Yeah. He doesn't put any exemption on that statement. It's not what's looking is what you're looking for on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. What's looking is what you're looking for when you're in a temple or when you're on a retreat or you're looking at a picture of a deity. It's what's looking is what you're looking for right now, right at this very moment. The sense of being a you, causes the what's looking. It can't make it so, but it makes it appear to be so. It causes the what's looking to be seen as looking for. Yeah? And as long as you use the looking for to find what's looking, you'll be blind to the what's looking. Yeah? What we're doing is questioning who's looking. And when you question who's looking, it will lead you to what's looking. Yeah? And it won't be the who you think it is. And that's what we do. That's what we're entertaining. Where I come from is recovery, program of recovery. I've been involved with it for 25 years. I entertained some possibilities that were delivered in a meeting such as this after I'd been about 11 years sober. And the possibility was revolutionary to me. And it became sort of an unspoken yes in my gut. And it turned out to be the last answer till to this day. And what it did was it freed me from the need to be liberated, in a sense. And from that solution, I could see the problem, yeah? And the problem isn't a problem, it's an activity. This is how I see it. And that activity, I call it selfing. It's a mental process. It wasn't there when you were born. Body, mind grew into it. Supposedly around 18 months, the baby starts having a sense of self, yes? That feeling of self is produced by a mental process called selfing. That's how I see it, yeah? It's an activity of the mind. It's manifesting right now in the thoughts that you're having in your head that are being heard, yes? The narrative of your day, the narrative about your past, the narrative about what you think's going to future going to be, what you were, what you are, what you're going to be, what they are, what they were, what they're going to be. All of that yapping up there, 70,000 thoughts a day, they say, go through this little noggin. Yeah? You may not be aware of all of them, but the ones that you're aware of, you're usually aware of them, which is actually quite unconscious, that you're the thinker of them. So every thought is held as your thought. So every thought that's seen, not by you, but by or through consciousness, is claimed by the mental process, yeah, and is claimed to be, I'm the thinker of that thought, or it's about me. Yeah? Now you can put it just simply, there's a lot of new people here, put a word up here, say money, yeah? Put a word here, health. Put a word here, security. Everyone would give a meaning to it based on their condition, yes? If you were feeling pretty good, health wouldn't be that huge of a problem right now. Well, let's change the weight of that, yeah? Money, health, security. Put the word my in front of it. My money. Put the word my in health, front of health. My health. Put the front of security. My security. Usually different, yeah? Put the word my in front of time. My time. Much different. Thought, my thought. Much different. Feeling, my feeling. Much different, yes? That's what happens here. The initial activity of this life is consciousness and contact. Through this interface called the body, it's in contact through 5 gates. You're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching. There's a 6th gate where the mind is hearing thoughts like you would hear a note, yes? Those 6 gates are how consciousness is having an experience here. So conscious contact is the basic denominator of every moment of every day that you've been in. Conscious contact. Okay. What happens is a mental process arises after conscious contact because you can become conscious of it, yes, this mental process, and it claims to be the one who's conscious. Yeah. As soon as it's crowned, that kingly tiara or that queenly tiara, that you, this body, this object, becomes a very special mental entity. It becomes me. Yeah? And here I am in a room full of yous, and I'm never going to see you as anything other than a you. You may be my favorite you may be the you I hate, but I'm never going to see you as anything other than a you in my experience, yeah? An object. Yet, you're all having the experience, all the same experience of this object. You see it as a you. This guy called Paul, that you. But no matter how many people are in this room, that their experience is that I'm a you, I'm still going to stubbornly proclaim that it's me. Yeah? This is me, which separates, immediately separates this little object from all these little objects. Yeah? And it separates this little object from consciousness. I become what's conscious. Yeah? So now I'm the seer. But if you ever watch your eye, if it's open, no matter what goes by its vision, you're going to see. Even if you had a great desire not to see that day, you've seen it. Yeah? Just like when someone says, I didn't want to feel like that, but you've already felt it. The feeling has already been felt, and then there's the interpretation. I don't want to feel like this. It's too late by that point. Yeah? Now you have a thing that's saying, I don't want to feel like that, and it has no power to change that feeling in a sense. Yeah? So what would happen if I was seeing those thoughts and they weren't being claimed by the mind? If they weren't my thoughts, just like if you're having a bad day and the thought that's driving you crazy, it doesn't leap out of you and cause a contagious reaction in me. I have an immunity as long as I see it as your thought. But the same thought, if I'm having it, if it's held as my thought, it has a huge amount of power on me. Yeah? The thought, when I see it as yours, no matter how badly you're feeling, I may have sympathy for you, compassion for you, I do not have that experience you're having. But the same thought, if I'm holding it with this relationship that it's mine, it has a huge amount of power in my day. It can ruin a whole day. You can have a beautiful day in Toronto like today, and the thought system will deny you access to this day. You'll be thinking about what's not happening in the past. You'll be thinking about what you think is going to happen, which is also another form of what's not happening in the future. And in this way, the mental process, because you are not a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. You are not a mental idea. You are not a body. Yeah? You're something prior to that. And that thing that's claiming to be you is actually not here right at this very moment. It has to be remembered. Yeah? So the thought system thinks about you and me. Yeah? It thinks about you and me as a body. And when it thinks about you and me in the past, it remembers you in the past, and that's how it remembers you as being here now. Yeah? So it goes like this. I was here, I will be here, there, and therefore I am here. Yeah? What isn't so must be remembered. It has no ability to appear. It has to be remembered. It has to be conjured up. But what's already so is already here. There's no need to remember it. You can't remember your true self. There isn't one, first of all. All you can do is be abiding in the conscious contact that's available right now. Yeah? So underlying every moment is the conscious contact. Then there's this mental process called selfing that is changing our contact as this into an interpretation about life, seen from a point of view of a self. Yeah? So you and I are looking at everything as how it pertains to us. And we're not even that you that it's pertaining to. It's a form of slavery. Every day, your day is dictated not by the sun, not by the weather truly, not by the air hitting you, not by the smell of the flowers, but it's by the thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow. Isn't that isn't slavery? That isn't slavery, that here you are, right at this moment. Let's say you've worked really hard to get to a special moment, and you can't even enjoy it when you arrive there, but even if it's what you call peace. Let's say you arrive at peace now, and you're addicted or enslaved to this thought system, which is drenched in time. If you look at your thoughts, what do they value? Do they value this moment or the past moments and the future moments? Where is the value system of your thoughts? Do they put value right now in this moment, or do they value the past and the future more? Sort of like in economics, just follow the money. In government, follow the money. Well, follow the value of the thought system, and you'll see what the thought system is about. It is not about being here. The whole point of this whole idea of getting into the moment, and you read those books, How to Get Into the Moment, maybe there's a meet-up meeting about, we're going to have a meet-up meeting of how to get into the moment, and if you like that meet-up meeting, we're going to have one that's how to really get into the moment 3 weeks from now, and then we're going to have one that really, really, really get into the moment. What we're saying here is you can't be out of the moment. You are the moment. Without you, there is no moment. Yeah? So why are we trying to get into something we can't be out of? You see the insanity of it? We're believing an assumption, a crazy assumption you didn't have when you were a kid. When you were like 2 or 3 years old, if you weren't in a violent situation, when you were playing, were you worrying that would you be playing a week from now? Because you didn't have any idea of time yet, did you?
That's right.
When I was a kid, I was playing, it wasn't like I was worried, will I be playing next week? You know what I mean? I was absorbed in whatever I was doing because I hadn't entertained, I could be doing something other than that. Wasn't that incredibly beautiful? And what went along with that? Wonder and awe, spontaneity, immediacy, all of that goes out the window as soon as we get preoccupied by these insane ideas that I could be somewhere else than where I am. Yeah? Have you ever read one of those books all the way through? Have you really? Have you really? Maybe 5 chapters, 4 chapters, and then you drop it and you wait for the next edition, Jesus. And this whole idea now, everyone would like to get out of self. That's what most drug addictions are about, basically. And the thing is, the original addiction is the conditional mind's addicted to this idea of being a self, a feeling, a sense of being a long-lasting, independent entity that has the qualities of doership, yes, of free will, of choice, of being the alpha and the omega, of being the beginning and the end, of actually being who is conscious, instead of realizing it's something that's seen from a point of view of consciousness. Yeah? Instead, it appears, and then its story is that it's behind the camera. When it's relegated always to appear before the camera. Conscious contact is out of time. It's immediacy. Yes? There's no time involved in it. The sense of self is produced by a mental process that takes time. You arrive a minute late at every scene. You're waiting to listen to an interpretation. You're waiting for your head to tell you how you're doing today. How do you feel? Some days we don't even know how we freaking feel. Are we that far from the pulse of our own life that we have to wait to have our head tell us, oh, you're having a good day. Oh, thank you, you know. I mean, I've been in it all day. When is it going to dawn on me? You know? I've been here since 8. It just dawned on me I'm having a good day or a bad day. We're hyper-conscious of this. There's 5 gates. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. And then the 6th gate, which dominates it all? Which gate of conscious contact is dominating it all? The mental gate. It's this hearing of thoughts. It's overriding the seeing, the feeling, the tasting, the touching, the smelling all day. How many things have you touched today? I mean, really touched. Do you even taste your food anymore? All this, all it is like we're like those animals, the dogs, the poor dogs that get mange and they put those little plastic collars on them, you know, so they won't scratch. We're like that, this satellite dish. It's all I, me, my, all day. A story about Paul. Jesus, it's fucking slavery. Yeah. And then we'll do anything. We'll jump off a bridge on a bungee cord. I used to shoot cocaine in my neck to feel like I was alive. That's how dulled out and numb I was. Yeah. And then people say, well, what are you going to do about next week? Show me next week. If you look at most of what's going on in people's lives, because I see it in their faces, I can see it. It's not fear. Fear is a valid emotion. It's mental anxiety. The mental process of producing anxiety from 2 fields called what not happening. You're worrying about a future that hasn't happened, and yes, can you see it? Can you make a reservation to that hotel right now called future? No. Yet, the power of the mind is if you think about it, yes? If you think about it, and the only reason why you think about it is you're pictured there in the future as a body. That's the only way that mind, the thought system, can drag your attention and interest from this moment, because the 5 other gates are crying out for your attention. You're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. This is supposed to be a moment of experience. To drag all that attention away from the other gates, it has to have this incredible object of fascination, and that is you. The idea of being this long-lasting, independent, separate entity, pictured as a body. So it projects it into the future, because you're not worrying about too many other people as much as you are about you, are you? Maybe your kids, you're picturing them and what's going to happen to them. But the only way you can think about yourself in the future is as a body. How are you going to think about yourself as a spirit? I wonder how my spirit will be 5 years from now. Exactly how it is right now. And I think my spirit was much better shape 5 years ago. No, it wasn't. It's exactly the same shape because it's not a shape. It's shapeless. It's not in a condition. It's prior to all conditions. It's not in a quantity that you've lost or amassed. Yeah. You can't acquire more or lose some of it. It's always available at all times, just as it is. Yeah. So then the thought system thinks about the body. The body is like a lightning rod that attracts the attention. Why? Because it's about you. We're addicted to the idea of me. Yeah. So now it's addicted. So the thought system circulates around this little object, and it's thought about. Yeah. And that thinking produces an effect, not in the future, but now, where you are. A beautiful day may be offering you a lovely invitation, and you're withholding yourself because you've been entrapped by this future preoccupation or by a past recollection. You're enslaved to where the mental realm takes you all freaking day, every day in and day out. Try to call back your attention. It just goes back to another form of self that you're picturing how you thought you were once. I want to be like how I was. Yeah. So the idea of okayness is totally into time now. You never sense that you can just be inherently okay. I was okay once, and I will be okay if I do this and get that and this and that. And those dreams of okayness, what do? They piss on your moment, don't they? They're used to invalidate, because if you were once okay and you will be okay, you must not be okay now. Because if you're okay now, you wouldn't be thinking about you were once okay and you will be okay. You'd be enjoying the okayness. Seriously. This isn't rocket science. It's like blue is blue. Something works, it works. You know what I mean? And you have the ability to recognize it. It works. For me, what happened is it stabilized into a traveling lighter over a long span of time now. And it doesn't mean it changes the geography of my life. It just means whatever geography my little life has in store for me, for the action figure, I'm going to travel lighter over it. Yeah? So when my girlfriend gets cancer, I'm going to be able to hold the space for her more than I would when my mother was dying. In the past, it progresses, and you see the verification of the tree by the fruit it's producing. Yeah? What leap of faith is necessary? It's just the acknowledgement that it's working, and then you realize the problem from the solution. You get released from that absorption in this mental idea called Paul, and that interest and attention that was enslaved, that was producing this incredible unease that you want to shoot some drugs to get high over, or you want to drink to forget, or you want to do something crazy to escape from. That interest and attention is freed from that preoccupation, and that same thing that was driving you crazy now enriches your life. Yeah? And you can't say, oh, this is where your interest and attention goes. You're going to find out, and that's the joy of the living. You're in a state of truly, finally, for once, I don't know. And it's okay. You know? You don't know what to do, and you don't do anything. And you let something download. And the interest and attention starts verifying each step. This is working. Why? Because I'm feeling better, lighter. I'm looking at what I can contribute in life instead of sucking every freaking person I know dry. What happens when someone comes over to your house and starts wanting to talk about all the worries they have about what's not happening? Aren't you bored in 5 minutes? Unless you want to sleep with them, then maybe you'll listen for a couple hours with the hopes that at least you'll have some sex or something for them. But basically, the fact is, it's boring as hell. You'd rather be doing your laundry. But the same stuff's going on in your head, and you've been listening to it like a fucking divine novella for 40 years. Like, oh, this is all about me. It's so unbelievable. You see? The stickiness isn't in the thought, it's in the mind. It's the identification as a thinker that binds you to the thought system, not the thoughts. The thoughts reinforce the glue, but the binding idea is you're the thinker. Just like all the guilt and shame rest on the branch of personal doership. It's the doership that causes you to have pride and guilt and shame and all like that. And if you ever weighed the amount of pride you've had about what you've done and the guilt of shame of what you've done or omitted or committed, the guilt and shame would totally outweigh the pride, at least 80 to 20%. You've got to see this thing as bias. If you have a miracle this morning happen, you forget it in an hour, and you have a resentment that never happened, and you've been entertaining it for 30 years. You know, some perceived slight that never occurred. The person forgot it as soon as they walked by, and you've been holding on to it for 30 years. What the fuck? You have an advisor or a consultant, it's the CEO. It's running the show. It's cooking the books. And the thing is, okay, if you get to a point where the irritability and restlessness and discomfort is enough, and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it has an incredible second lock, which is an axiom that self can't get out of self. Yeah? So let's say in recovery we say that the alcoholic and the addict doesn't have a problem, they are the problem. Now, if you are the problem, then it doesn't look like there's much of a solution, is it? Yeah? But in the statement in recovery it says, we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And if you look up the word seemingly, it says it appears to be true or false to you. That's the definition of it. You don't understand, maybe you do, how much power you are here. Everything is being given the meaning by you in this life. Everything you come in contact with, you never actually meet that thing. What you meet is the meaning you're giving to it. Yeah? That meaning can be distributed by self-centeredness, which a lot of us have been under for quite a while, and we're sick and tired of the same old, same old. We followed all the formulas it offers. We just changed partners, expecting the same thing to work. If we just change the parts. We've gone over every inch of self-centeredness. We've listened to all the promises, all the advertisements, and we're still seeking. We're still seeking solutions. So I guess we haven't found a real one yet. Yeah? What would happen if the problem, why, let's say you are the problem, and I'm not saying you are, but let's say in recovery, why you are the problem is such an incredible problem, and yet the solution at the same time. Because the solution is, the problem is identification as a self. The solution is, there is no self. Yeah? As far as the mind obsessed, it can never actually create the self. Because you are something already. I'd say you're nothing already. You know? You're in more of a formless nature than you are of a mental or a physical nature. Yes? So all the mind can do, the mental process can do, is produce or infer or assume or imply that there's someone home. But have you ever seen that someone? When you say, who am I, does something show up? Or do you hear a little voice in the head say, me? Well, then you ask, who is that me? Have you seen anything show up? Is it in your elbow? Where are you? So what would happen? So here's the problem, is if the identification is in place. If it's seen not to be so, that's the solution. Yeah? What would happen if I saw a thought as not mine? I'd probably lose interest in it. Especially if it was about something that's not actually happening. Yeah? And suddenly, I'd have immunity to what's not happening. What more would I need to do? Would I need to have any more solutions after I saw that it wasn't happening? And how quick would that take? It'd be pretty abrupt, yeah? If I was like a therapist and my specialty was dealing with what's not happening, I'd have the shortest sessions of all. You'd come in, you'd start your little spiel, I'd interrupt you, hey, that's not happening, and that would be it. Like 1 minute. You know? Maybe you could run over me for a few minutes, I'd still say, after 10 minutes, that's not happening. And if I let you go for 55 minutes, that's definitely not happening. Yeah? And the principle would stay the same. At least acknowledge that it's not happening. Yeah? At least start from a premise that's somewhat true. Yeah? And then if it persists, maybe get some help. But at least start from the truth of the situation. It is not happening. I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not tasting it. I'm not touching it. I'm thinking about it. And I'm saying, we're not even doing that. We're not the thinker. Yeah? It's so funny. Let's say if I came in here and we're having this talk, and then I say, oh, I got to stop. I forgot to digest that burrito I had earlier. I'll be back in about, the big burrito, it was El Grande. It'll take about an hour. I have to leave and then go, and oh, I remembered the pizza. I should have ate that piece of pizza yesterday. You know, I would never leave my house. I'd have to be busy digesting all day. You know, and everyone would go, ha, 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 that's so funny. But then there's a much subtler process that the brain is doing, and we believe we're the doer of it, thinking. We actually believe we're thinking. All right, I'm getting ready to think. Hold on. I can see it coming. I can see the thinking coming. You know? No, it appears there's something, acknowledge it. It's not you, it's consciousness. Consciousness is what illuminates the thought through hearing. You hear it. Yeah, it's not you. You're an afterthought. The conscious contact occurs, and then the mental process says it's a you that heard it, yeah? Then what happens is the mental process, because it stakes that claim, your life starts from that interpretive point. And what happens is all the spontaneity, all that wonder and awe when you were a baby or a kid is on the other side, on the conscious contact level, yeah? And you're trying to get back there, but you're trying to get back there by the sense, as this sense of self. That sense of self can't go there. The sense of self is limited by the process that's making it. It can't transcend the mental process and land in conscious contact and now re-engage and reinvigorate itself with that wonder of awe of just feeling, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. It can't do it. It cannot do it. If it ever left, if it ever left the mental process, it would disappear, and it wasn't even appearing. It can only appear through a process called this selfing, yeah? When you have a moment, a peak moment, or you have that beautiful moment, let's say you're having sex, or for me, surfing or something like that, when you're totally engaged in the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, the water, the smell, the sound going on, there's that absence of selfing. It's not as predominant, and those are the best moments of your freaking life, yeah? But what happens is, the selfing reinvigorates, says, I'm the one who's surfing, and then it wants to try to capture that, which it can never capture because it wasn't there. That's what you were feeling. You were feeling life in the presence of the absence of self. What a lot of people want to do, they want to be there to experience their own absence. It's not going to happen. What is inherently absent cannot be there to experience its own absence. It's a recognition that it's absent, inherently absent, and then you sense the presence of what you were sensing when you were a kid. The conscious contact of life. Yeah. With no middleman or middlewoman, just the interface. What does it do for you? Find out. Yeah. This is just a simple invitation. There's no draft here. There's no inscription. There's nothing. We're just inviting you to entertain a possibility. Maybe just take one little step. Are all these thoughts yours, and are you the thinker of them? I had a great experience of it with recovery. Most people in deep addiction are in a huge shell of terminal uniqueness. They don't feel, no one thinks like me. No one feels like me. No one's done the heinous things that I've done. And it's all well and good when you're isolated. The belief is really, really powerful. You go to meetings, and what people at meetings do is talk about their feelings, their thoughts, and their reactions to life. And then you start hearing them, and you can only come to two conclusions. How did this guy get my thoughts? I go to India, I go to a meeting in India, you feel just like I feel. How's that possible? I'm from New York, you're from India. Yeah? Then you realize, either, Jesus, they're not mine. They're not my thoughts. These aren't my feelings. They're being generated by an alcoholism. Just like all our thoughts and feelings are being generated by self-centeredness. Alcoholism is just an extreme subdivision of self-centeredness, that's all. It just paints with a broader stroke. That's all it is. We're more insane, that's about it. We're more touchy, and we create more damage. Yeah? But it's basically the original addiction is the mind's addiction to the idea of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. Yeah? That's the addiction. It can never complete the mission, and if you've ever lived with a desire that was thwarted, and it would continually was thwarted, man, how many pints of dust have you eaten? When you've gone out and that person you want to meet didn't like you. You go, boom, 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 eat, shop, this and that. Because what happens is, one desire is thwarted, other desires spawn. It's exactly what happens with addictions. You want to get out of the discomfort, irritability of restlessness, of being the center of a mental world, being this planet Paul, and so you find alcohol or drugs, it gives you a little relief, but it bonds you even more to the idea of being a self. And therefore then, let's say you get sober, then it springs into pornography. Or you start trying to go out with your friends' girlfriends. Or you start, shopping, spending way too much money. And the addictive mind just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading because the original disease hasn't been seen. The identification as a self. Yeah? Solution. And you know, from the solution's point of view, the highest level the problem can arise to is it appears to be so. Yeah? In a sense, it's inherently imaginary. You have to imagine it into existence by listening to the thought system all day. Yeah? So from the solution's point of view, the problem is imaginary. This is what's so beautiful about it. So here, the problem's real, you need a real solution. When you find the real solution, it points out the problem's imaginary. Then you don't even need a solution. This is so economical, you don't add one bit. It's all being economized, all pared down. You travel lighter and lighter and lighter. You don't have to try to be in the moment. You realize you can't be out of the moment. Yeah? You're not trying to get out of self because you realize you can never possibly be in a self. Yeah? So take that, meetup. Meet up with that. Does it take two? No. That's the good news. Is there a path? No. Whatever path you are, it will illuminate. This is not a path to illumination. It illuminates paths. Whatever life you have, this will illuminate it. Yeah. But you can't use a path to find it. It won't work. But it will illuminate all paths that you're on here. It's not an artificial light. It's your own light. It's like here. If Rob turned off the lights right now, and lock the door, Rob, too. Lock the door. Turn off the lights right now, a lot of problems would ensue from the lack of light, yes? Let's say if I wanted to go to the bathroom, I couldn't see the door. And if I got up, I may hit the chair, and I hurt my knee, and I step on people's feet, and they start yelling at me. And then some smart guy, some entrepreneur would start trying to sell maps of where the bathroom is, you know? I saw it one day a year ago when the lights were on. I think if you go to the left here, give me $5 first. If you go to the left here, I think it's down the hallway, all right? Or it's catheters they'd sell you or something. Everyone starts getting knee pads, and they have like, I proclaim I'm sorry before I hurt anyone when I'm trying to go to where I want to go, or like this. All these problems would ensue, and we'd have a lot of solutions for all the problems, which would... But instead, just find the light switch. Yeah? Turn on the light. Turn on the light. Do I need a map to the bathroom? I know it. I can see. Am I going to hit the chair? No, I can see. I don't have to say I'm sorry before anything happens. I'm probably not going to step on Tanya's toes. Yeah? All I needed was light. I needed illumination. You're the light switch. You're your own source of light. Other people can invite you. They cannot supply it. Some great master says you have to be a light upon yourself. Of course. How could it be any other way? This is not teaching. The only thing I can teach is about what we're not. You can't teach about what you are. You can only find out about what you are. You cannot teach about it. No freaking way. You can teach about what you're not, and by learning about what you're not, you may forget about what you're not, and that's how you find out about what you are. Like in a great master in Buddhism said, Dogen from Japan Buddhism said, to study Buddhism is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. Yeah? Why do you need to forget the self? Because it's remembered. It doesn't exist. It has to be remembered to seem so. So the antidote that is to forget it. When you forget it, what happens? The remembering stops and its influences diminish greatly. And you have a natural immunity to what's not happening because you're engaged in what's happening. This has a huge pull. You're being pulled through 5 gates, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. And the underlying consciousness that's available through that seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, you get an intimacy of what's so, the presence of that spirit, if you want to call it. It's more than sufficient to give you immunity to an imaginary mental realm. that you have to travel by only one route through thought. But if you're not here, you'll be there. If the heist is probably already complete, this here is now a mental here. It's a mental here, full of there and then. You never are in the mental here. It's always there and then. It's totally influenced by was and will be. You can learn by one thought. The whole thought system is drenched in time. Don't you ever feel like you're being pushed constantly? If you found peace today, you wouldn't be able to rest there. You'd be worried, I may not have it tomorrow. Yeah. If you find love today, you're afraid that love's going to walk out. Yes? Time has so much dominance in our ability. We can't stop. We can't pause. We're constantly being moved. If that ain't slavery, I don't know what is. You know, you work really hard to have a day off. Let's say you work really hard to go to Hawaii. You get to Hawaii and all you think about is your job. And when you're in your job, all you think about is Hawaii. I mean, Jesus Christ. All I've been thinking about is Hawaii. I get to Hawaii, all I'm thinking about is the job. Jeez. I'm going to stop thinking about the job. Yes, that's also thinking about the job. Yeah? Self can't get out of self. You can't use mind to find mind. You can't use the Buddha to find the Buddha. You are the Buddha. And it's not concentrated. It's not vigilance. It's relaxed awareness. It's a diffusing. Your mind diffuses. It opens up. Your aperture opens up. Almost you can have a sense of it going toom, 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 and you start seeing like Panavision-wise. Yeah. And in this, what you're seeing from here is very, very limited. This little tunnel vision. There's tons of possibilities outside the periphery. All it needs is to be entertained, to become so in your life. But we're defined by this frame of self-centeredness. And everything looks like, my friend was saying, like a snapshot, a little individual picture. But when the frame weakens, you'll see it's a whole giant mural. Life is just one huge moment. Yeah? We put in all the partitions and the separations and the cutting and the time and the months and the years and this and that. Where did it? We did it. We're doing it. We're cutting it up to a point where it's not recognizable. We put so many lines on the wholeness, we miss the wholeness. It's like, how many people were at your last cafe? Did anyone hear a conversation about the effects of gravity in that cafe? Was someone saying, oh, you know, gravity, I feel it today in my shoulder. It's really pushing this way. Yeah, I see it. The shoulder's a little lower than it was yesterday. Gravity's out to get you today, you know? No one says it at all, because in the physicality, you're always feeling the pressure of gravity. You don't know it. You have to go into an anti-gravity state to have an experience, and then you know what gravity's like. After you've had it, its effects relief, yeah? When you have the effects of gravity relieved, then you know about gravity, exactly about selfing. When you're relieved of its effects, even for a moment, you start learning about it. You can't learn from underneath it. That's one level of knowledge, but it doesn't serve you. It doesn't lead you from freedom from that. The other knowledge leads you to freedom from it because you recognize it. And if you can see it, you cannot possibly be it. If you're seeing it, you cannot possibly be what you're seeing. Yeah. Getting me fired up. Sometimes you got to put your foot down. It's a slimy thing. But the root problem is you're identified as a self. So therefore it would be self trying to get out of self. So in a way, trying to get out of self is just another form of being in self. Yeah. Trying to get out of self as self. In other words, let's say I want to leave this here. I'll easily walk away. But if I'm identified as this, and I want to leave this here, I can't, right? When I leave, I'm going with it. That's the problem with the self can't get out of self. That's why if you look at it almost like a parasite, let's say, this mental parasite comes over the host and starts jacking it into the navigational system, the thought system, and sort of basically takes over the thought system, yeah? Presents a picture of you as you to the mental process, and the mind falls for it. So, because let's say this parasite, in my experience with addiction, it's a very hostile parasite, and it's like a possession. You're all right if you're not drinking and using, but once the drug or the drink is introduced, things change, big time, almost like Jekyll and Hyde, that extreme. Yeah? So I've had many experiences of it, and I have an intimate feeling it's like a possession or a parasite. So let's say this parasite has to live off a host, but let's say a big bug landed on my arm right now. What would I do? I knock it off like that in a second. And no matter how many times it landed on it, I'd probably have that knee-jerk reaction to wipe it off. What happens with this parasite? It jacks in and convinces the host that it's the host. Yeah? So now, the parasite, no matter how bad it gets under the tyranny of the parasite, the host cannot entertain that it can be free from it. It can entertain trying to be free as it, you know, for it, with it, but it can't entertain being free from it because it takes itself to be it, yeah? What happens if you're not that? The first thing that dawns on the mind, at least in my experience, was, hey, I can be free of it. Yeah? If it's not me, if it's a foreign installment, I can be free. I had never entertained the clarity of a possibility like that in my life. Never. And I never would have with the dominance of the parasite. I would have still been trying to improve myself, work on myself, keep trying to get better, civilize it, hope that I could have a 6-month-long workable relationship, maybe not flip out at the next picnic I went to, maybe get a job for longer than a year or something like that. My idea of success would be so freaking dominantly low based on this tyranny, yeah? But one day it dawned on me, I'm not that. Yeah? And that's that. And as soon as it wasn't about me, I lost interest in the thought system because it's really a boring thought system. I swear to God, isn't it? I mean, how can we listen to another golden oldie from that fucking station, you know? Jesus Christ. Really. I mean, so now, because of conscious contact, you're hearing it, but you're not listening to it anymore. Yeah? You start having a little immunity. Maybe it just begins a little bit, but the dividends are pretty great. After a while, you may not notice it right away, but after a while, instead of like waiting for a big peak moment where a big real chunk of the heaviness of your life gets removed, maybe for a couple of days, and then gets put back on, and now that removal of the chunk becomes another heavy chunk because you want everything compared to how, oh, I felt so great that week when I was at that retreat, yeah? This is more like every day a heaviness is skimmed off, all day. Every day some heaviness is skimmed off. And I'll tell you, you want to have those big peak experiences, they're a lot of fun. And maybe there's a big chunk, but I tell you, over time, a little bit each day adds up to a huge sum of lightness. Your life could stabilize and you can travel later. I mean, Saturday at 11 in the morning, Thursday night, Monday, when you're feeling sick, when you're feeling great, when you're hungry, when you're not hungry, when you're in a relationship, not in a relationship, you'll start being able to at least bring a little more light to circumstances and situations, instead of let circumstances and situations dominate you. Yeah. And the proof will be in the pudding. I entertained it, and this is what's happened. That's why people ask me to come to Toronto. Nothing wrong, you know, that's the only reason why. I can share about it, because it's happening right now. This is a living solution. It's not something I got 10 years ago, and I have it on a spiritual mantle, and come on over, I want to show you this. It's like some wild animal I caught in the spiritual jungle. Look at this 9-pointed stag I shot, you know, in the Himalayas, you know. No, it's a living, right at this moment, there's a relief available. In this moment, in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, because the timelessness is in every moment, and this is where the relief comes from. It's not based on doing and having. This whole idea of we're going to do and have ourselves into a state of being. How can you change the state of being you already are? What we're doing in having ourselves is into another mental state. We're moving from a mental state, seemingly, and we're doing and having ourselves into another mental state. All the while the being is available. The sense of being is available all the while. Being is not in any process. It's not trying to progress anywhere. It's not attempting to achieve any climax. It's complete already. It's not of time. And it's right now. In every moment, it's the basis of every moment. There wouldn't be time without timelessness. You can sense it. And once you start, you have it. You have the ability to sense it. Yeah. We had it when we were young, and it's not gone anywhere. We just got sucked up the ass of self in a way. All the attention that was spreading through all our gates have just gone up into this one gate, basically. Some people haven't smelled in a long time. They haven't stopped to touch freaking anything, you know? And the thing is, when the hearing's already been co-opted, do you really sense the hearing, or is all the emphasis on the hearer and the heard? Yeah? The seer and the seen. What about the seeing? That's where life is. The life is in the seeing, not the seer and the seen. That's the interpretation of life. It's fine to have a story, but not to be had by a story. We're going to have plenty of stories here, but to be had by a story is different. That's slavery. And if you say that's the way it is, it ain't that way. It can only appear to be that way. And you and I are in cahoots with it. You have to be, even if you think it's unwilling, your unconsciousness to it is a willingness. You're a participant in it. We're a participant in our own life. Yeah? On a super deep level. I mean, not cash register honesty. I mean a deeper level of we are giving. At this point, this apparatus is giving all the meaning to my day. All day. We're having a subjective experience. We're at the same event and everyone's having a different experience here. Yeah? We're smelling the same smells, we're hearing the same sounds, but everyone's having a different experience. Yeah? That's the different meaning we're all giving. And if that meaning is being given from one point, small mental point of view called self-centeredness, it's like putting a marathon runner in a closet. It's going to drive the freaking thing crazy. You know? Going home and wondering what that person meant by it, saying hello to me for 5 hours. Jesus Christ, the insanity. You know? Of course you're going to want to drink. You're going to want to buy that dress. You want to go to home with that guy you don't like. You're going to, you're going to go for it and have to pay the consequences, you know, in a lot of ways because it's unbearable. I saw it in the stream with addiction, but when I came to spiritual groups after I started doing these talks, spirituality is an addiction. You guys need, retreats. You need interventions. You need rehabs. Someone has to intervene, take away the books and the freaking DVDs and the fucking Celestial Bell music. And Jesus, go help someone in a soup kitchen. Just do something, It's an addiction because the mind wants to seek. It's scared shit of finding. Because if it really found out the truth, it would realize its non-existence. Its true irrelevance. And it doesn't want to find that. It doesn't mind wanting to want to be free. It doesn't want to be free. I'm serious. No, you don't. If you really wanted to be free, it would occur, because it's always occurring. It would be obvious. It's okay not to want to be free. It's fine. I know it's going to get great one day. No, it isn't. I'll tell you a little story I like to use. Simple little thing, but I like it. It's called Here and There. So, all right, let's say I'm sitting in my little apartment, one-bedroom apartment. Do you mind if I tell you the story? I'll tell you a little joke first. This guy comes over, his girlfriend comes over after they've been about a 3-year relationship, and the girlfriend breaks the news to him, "Hey, I'm leaving," and he says, "I'm coming with you." That's what this is like. It's like self trying to get out of self. All right, I'm gonna go seek the truth. I'm coming with you. You'll never find it. So this is just a little example. And what happens with mind? If you get an example, it's like, when you see the drop of water, they used to say you see the whole ocean. If you see an example of mind, how it works, then you can expand into a principle. It's beautiful. Yeah, and the principle is where the solution lies, in a way. So here's a little thing. I have in a little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, pretty small, not much furniture, and I'm happy, everything's cool, it's a lovely day. And I'm looking through a magazine, and there's a beautiful layout of a couch, in a really nice, well-adorned apartment. And I say, man, I like this couch. And then my mind starts thinking, if I had a couch, I'd probably meet a girl and maybe sleep with her on that couch. And my first child would be conceived on that couch, And my whole life would get good and maybe a couple more. And then I start thinking how great it would be to have a couch. And now I'm starting to feel irritable, restless, and discontent because my little apartment's couchless, I don't have a couch. I'm looking around. Then I think about all the people I know who have couches, and I start resenting them. Why didn't they tell me how nice it is to have a couch? And I'm getting pissed off. And then, so now I decide I'm going to get this couch. And I start working towards getting the couch. And all the while, I'm really excited, but I'm invalidating where I'm at right now with the hopes that this couch is going to make everything much, much better. And before I was fine, yeah? So now I'm really working hard to get this couch. So, and I'm calling my friends up. I'm saying, the couch is getting delivered this Saturday. Well, and they go, oh, great, yeah. Can you be here? No, we got something to do, They already know the couch ain't going to do it, but I'm under the illusion it is. So finally, I sweep the area, and the couch comes in, and I'm so excited, Been waiting for 3 months, working every week, saving money. And it's the right color, and they put it down, and they take the vinyl off, and I sit on it, and I go, wow. I just exult in the couch. And then suddenly I look around, I say, I got to get a matching rug, So this mythical the couch, that I basically used in a way, the mind did, to invalidate the present now, yeah? As soon as I get to that mythical what does it become? A here, yeah? As soon as I get to there, as long as I can keep it there, it works these little magics of disassociating me from what's happening, da-da-da-da-da. But every time, all those theirs, when I arrive to them, they're a here, yeah? And then the here is seen to be lacking, and then I'm on the slavery run to another mythical there. That's what it's like all fucking day. Yeah? If you don't have any immunity to the thoughts, you won't be able to stand still. You won't be able to enjoy a pause. You won't be able to have the ability to enjoy peace of mind. Then you're apt to do almost anything to get relief. And in a way, it's logical. Who wouldn't? If I really believed I was in a hopeless state, I'd do fucking anything to forget it. And I did. The sort of alcoholic of my type is I was willing to pay any consequence tomorrow not to feel uncomfortable now. And I did. Paid tons of consequences. And yet the uncomfortability arose and came back again and again, stronger and stronger. My solutions were part of the problem. And that's the whole point. You can't seek from the problem a solution. It'll just amplify the problem. So there is a solution. If you're interested, you can entertain the possibilities. You can go to zenbitchslap.com if you want, our website. You have tons of talks, videos about it. There's other people. Eckhart Tolle, he talks about it, doesn't he? Yeah, quite a lot. But it's not, there's all these people that are inviting you to entertain a possibility that you are what you're seeking, really. Yeah? They're right where you are right now is what you're looking for. It's just been disguised as a me. Yeah? That me is sufficient to block all further investigation. And now you're looking from a me, and that's what's causing all the looking for. It's like a form of blindness, really, self-centeredness. You need glasses to correct it. So Eckhart Tolle gives you a teaching to correct it a little, to correct the distortion of that way of looking. And everyone else maybe give you some corrections, AA and Buddhism and stuff like that. But the true solution is you take off both pair of glasses. Yeah? The eyes that you think you're looking at it from are a pair of glasses. They're a mental construction called self-centeredness. They're the blindness. You have always had the ability to naturally see. You're conscious. Yeah? So any really good message will invalidate its own need. Yeah? Just like for me, I'm meant to become obsolete. I'm meant to offer an invitation. And in a sense, that's my job, like a spiritual subpoena. You've been served, and then you see what happens. But I'm meant to become obsolete. You don't need anyone. You have to find it within yourself. You can't keep laying it on Eckhart Tolle or anyone else. Yeah. Sort of like the old Zen thing, when you see the Buddha on the street, shoot him. Or when you see Eckhart Tolle in the street, shoot him. Please. For me. Pretty please. Who is this guy? I do better. Next time I go to a town, I'm just going to leave the who's coming blank. I'll probably get more people. Who's coming? Just question marks. Everyone will be rushing in. How much do I have to pay? My new marketing plan. Don't say I'm coming. Don't, please. So you feel anything now in the room? Hopefully, yes, that's it. It's all an energetic thing. The words are like the envelope, they're not the message. We need words because the mind has a mail slot now. It's not going to let much in unless it can be conceived of a little bit. But when it gets in there, when the envelope opens, there's nothing in it. That's the message, yeah? You're left with nothing, and nothing is the gift that keeps on giving. Seriously. Nothing is the only gift that will keep on giving. All somethings will run out. All somethings are of quantity. They'll always run out. And truly, they're unreliable for that. But nothing keeps on giving. You can't make it something, though the mind wants to. It will thwart it every time. Every time you try to pick it up, you try to weigh it, you try to make it something, you try to take advantage of it, the mental condition, it won't respond. And then when you finally really truly let it alone, it blossoms. And it shows itself. And it's going to have a huge effect. Nothing will have the greatest effect on you in this world. It'll have the greatest effect of anything. Nothing. And you can't return it, which is great. No money back, guaranteed. Where are you going to bring it to? Customer service? Hey, you got nothing, exactly. Where am I supposed to put it? What am I supposed to do with it? Yeah, you'll find out. Yeah, there you go. So any questions tonight? Yes, yes.
Probably answered this, but just, so a person's in suffering, they're in pain, they decide to accept the invitation, they spin it around, try to look at things from another perspective, maybe some good thoughts, I think good thoughts might be coming through. Like you spend a lot of time putting down thoughts, so, but maybe some of them are pointing to God, or maybe some of those feelings are good. Is some of that real, or is none of that real too?
Well, none of it's truly real, but it can have an effect by the mind that's seeing it, so the mind gives it the effect. And the thing is, if you believe that you're a person in real suffering and pain, yeah, if you do believe that, you need a pail of water. Your house is on fire. You don't need a philosophy. Yeah, you got to take an action. You can't be sitting around thinking about it. It's not going to work. The thinking has produced such a situation that you've got to break it through action, not thought. Yeah? So there's different levels of ideas, of mind that are manifesting here. So let's say if I'm feeling that my house is on fire and someone's going to give me a book that says there's no house and there's no fire, it's not going to work. I need a pail of water. Yes? So if a person's at that point that they're really suffering and they're really in it, the bottom of it, this will just add on to that. Yeah? At that point, you need something. Nothing's not the best antidote at that point. And then when the fire goes down a little bit, you feel a little better, maybe you can look at what causes all the fires in your life. Yes? Maybe you can start seeing why you have to live near pails of water so much. Maybe you can become a free range. This cloud to download meaning. So one day you're feeling good and something's a problem, let's say, yeah? Isn't a problem. You look at it, it's fine. Next day you're feeling bad, it's a problem. The next day you're feeling good, it's not a problem. What is it? Is it a problem or isn't it a problem? You've given it all the meaning it has. Expand on that example. That's what's happening all day. Yeah? The condition of your mind now, if it's agitated, it's going to see things in a very distorted way. It'll see threats where there aren't any, and stuff like that. It's actually delusional. Yeah? It'll paint a picture that you'll have to live as a character in that may not be too fitting for you. It may not lead to happy joy and freedom. Yeah? It may cause a lot of irritability, restlessness, and discontent, and agitation. And even when peace and relaxation is available, you won't be able to rest or relax there because you're enslaved to it. All through the mind, not through the thoughts. The thoughts have no power in and of themselves. You give them all the power. And the idea here is there's another aspect of mind called faith. Yes? Everyone in this room has tons of faith. Everybody has faith. In this place of expression, faith manifests through the vehicle it's put in. So if you have faith in this thought system, and it's a failed system, you can tell if it's a failed system. Is it built on a lot of excuses, rationalizations, and blame? Is it? In your head, are there excuses, rationalizations, and blame during your day? If I was, let's say, a furniture store, and I sold couches, and every time I was selling the couch, I delivered it exactly as it was pictured, on the right time, yes, to the right place, would I need any excuses, rationalizations, and blame for the reason why I didn't deliver it? No, I delivered it. That's what's happening. Yeah? You were hoping that this navigational system would lead you to a sense of joy, at least happiness or security in your life. Has it succeeded? Has it succeeded? How many formulas have you followed that it's offered you? Have they succeeded? Or you're on number formula 67. And then if that fails, you'll still hope that number 80 works. Yeah? You're on a dead horse. It's time to recognize it and get off. Simple as that. It's a failed system. So if I have faith in this system and it's failed, what's that system going to produce? It's going to use the faith that my mind puts in it and produce anxiety. Anxiety, out of where? Out of what's not happening. You're faith workers. Your faith is producing effects now from an imaginary place. Jesus, at least, when he resurrected supposedly that guy Lazarus at least had once been alive. We're making shit out of nothing. All freaking day. Yeah? How can nothing have an effect? How can nothing have an effect? How can what's not happening have an effect? What's giving it the meaning that it can be used as a bludgeon on your day? Voila! Voila, our mind. Why? Because it's structured and formatted in a certain way. It's identified as a system that's failed, called self-centeredness. We're questioning the center of the system. If you're not that, you'll get relief from the effects of the system. You'll have thoughts, and you'll have the ability to recognize the ones that are valid and the ones that are just like Eckhart Tolle talks about psychological. They're just yapping about you, there and then. Or the pain body, or whatever, all those things. All those things are just mental winds that take us over. But what allows them to take us over? There's a certain petri dish that attracts it. That petri dish is self-centeredness. It's identification as self. Then the mental winds land there, and then 100 forms of fear appear. 100 forms of resentments and paranoia and threats and dis-ease when you're at the most comfortable place in the world. You know? You can tell there's no threat in this room. This is going to end. You'll never see me again. You're not getting shot at. Yeah? And yet a lot of people can feel anxiety because they're not here. They can't respond to here because they're addicted to there and then. They're wondering, I've got to get home to that Haagen-Dazs. What am I going to eat later? I hope I still have that movie. I need some fucking security. I can't bear being here. Yeah. It's unbelievable. You know, to me, see, in ignorance, you may not see it. And ignorance doesn't mean stupidity, it means ignoring. We're ignoring conscious contact, and we're allowing this mental process to become the dominant influence in our life. And how's it working out? Take stock. How's it working out? Are you happy, joyous, and free? Or at least somewhat comfortable in your own skin? And is it stabilized? Or are you at the whims of circumstances and situations that are read by an incredibly crazy mind that tells you one day, oh, you're fine, and the next day you're the hated of all hated, you know? You're never going to be enough. I've been on a run. This is like hours of talks I've done, and this last 4 or 5 days, and repetition is helpful. Not dissertations, not giant long fucking intensives. Invitations repeated. Yes? Invitation repeated. Maybe entertain that at least few of the thoughts in your head aren't yours, and you'll see there'll be a sense of space. And that sense of space will produce a feeling of lightness. There you go. Yes?
Do you think society being so fast with technology and everything helps the situation of stopping us to be present, or does it make it worse?
Helps the situation of stopping, it helps the system of stopping us.
No, like what I'm saying is, because everything is so fast now,
Yeah.
people want to multitask and do all this at once. People are sped up, it speeds people up,
Yes,
so
you
it's
are.
not good,
For
right?
sure, exactly. Well, it's not good or bad. It matters what your mind makes it.
But for a lot of people that aren't aware and that are ignorant about what's going on, they just kind of go with what's happening. So that speeding those people up, is that healthy?
The funny thing is, they may think they're going with what's happening, and they're getting pushed by what's happening.
Yes.
It's called being herded. It's a form of slavery.
But it's not, it can't be good, no?
well,
No.
to the cow that's going to the meat market, it ain't, no. I once did a cartoon of a slatted truck and all these cows in it, yeah? And then they had on the side meat market, you know? And then all the cows was there, and there's one like this, and I wrote the awakened one. I knew where it was going. All the others were just there. I'll tell you really, in my sense, one moment of this is worth 100 years of false security of fucking being neutered, you know? Deballed and fucking... It is. You know, I'd much rather, whatever you have to, the cost of being awake is well worth it for that Chinese water torture of drip, 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 time after time after time, I'm telling you. And you know what? You will be so surprised of how benevolent life can actually be, and the powers that are in it. I mean, I came out of severe addiction, well, there's no logical reason why things changed. I wasn't looking to get better, I had given up. And then I had a sort of intervention in the head, just sitting, getting drunk, waiting to get high with some guy I didn't know in a trailer park, California, Northern California, March 20th, 1988. I drank myself stupid. I couldn't put two sentences together for the last few days. When I woke up after I nodded out, I was drunk. I was so alcoholically intoxicated. I had been in 2 years and 3 months of programs, 2-year program, where I lived 2 years. Thought it was going to get better, and I went back out again. Had 3 months when I was younger in a program in the Bronx. Thought it was going to get better, and I went out again. I pretty much was totally demoralized, had given up, and figured I'm just going to stay as high as I can until the next time I go to an institution, jail, or death, because that's the 3 doors I was ending up at all the time. And then suddenly, while the guy was offering me the vodka again, something happened. Something downloaded in my head, and it froze that selfing, that incessant stream of mentality that was drawing all my attention, interest into it. It had drowned my attention, interest. It had drowned it like a baby in a bathtub. It drowned it, it really was. My interest and attention was pretty much numb until I shot some drugs, some coke or something. And nothing happened for like 3 minutes, but all this information downloaded because I didn't take that next offer. And suddenly I said, I got to call up the program I had been in 10 months before, the 2-year one that I just went on a 10-month run from. And I asked them, I went out to the phone booth and called them, which the minute before this occurred, I was never thinking of doing, not 1 second. I wasn't thinking of getting better. I'd given up all hope, basically. And I called them up and I asked if they would take me back. And they had been getting my newsletter for the last 10 months, and they said no. They said, maybe you can come back in a month and have another interview. That doesn't mean we'll accept you or not. And I said the first honest thing I'd said in 10 months, and that is, I don't think I have a month, It was pretty much, felt really terminal. So then I called someone else up, and this poor lady I used to party with fell for my story again, because I was something that shifted. And she drove up to Calistoga, an hour and a half from San Francisco, and picked me up. And while we were driving back, I had forgotten that moment of clarity. I wanted to get high again. But she wouldn't buy it, and she said, do you want a place to stay tonight? And I said, yeah, I do. I'm pretty much washed up. And she said, well, you got to go to an AA meeting. So I said, well, that's an hour, I can do that. So she took me to my first meeting, and I've been sober and clean ever since. Now, what's happened to me with the biggest influence of my whole life, which was alcoholism and addiction, and to have it stopped like that, and that solution that downloaded that day is still alive today, 25 years later, and has a lot of energy in it. I don't need any more convincing. I know that there are powers greater than self available to us, because I've seen it demonstrate on the biggest stage of my life, which was my addiction to drugs and alcohol. My mother wanted it to stop, my family wanted it to stop, my friends wanted it to stop, I wanted it to stop, my enemies wanted it to stop, the state wanted it to stop. Nothing could stop it, and yet something stopped it that day, and it hasn't started ever since. And you know what it's like now? It talks about it in the recovery program. The problem doesn't exist for me anymore. That's a damn good solution. Yeah? It's a damn good solution. So the possibilities of mind are endless, but they need to be entertained. They're there, but if there's no entertaining of it, they cannot find fruition here. Where the form of expression, where the threshold, where we are, where mind that's not in form takes form. It takes expression through us. And the role we have is we can entertain it. what happens is, some of us, a lot of us, and I needed to hear the possibilities. And that's what this is. This message, this meeting is to allow someone to hear a possibility that may register for them, you know? And if it does, it will change your life. Simple as that. You know, maybe a little bit each second, maybe a large, but it will definitely change it, and it will try to intimate what it is, which is very light. It's non-form, and it will lighten you up, I'll tell you. Yeah, and I've had a lot of years of it stabilizing, you know, and consistent experiencing of it. It's not an experience, but it will influence all your experiences because it's a state that you'll be living from. Yeah, and that dis-ease and irritability and restlessness, that's the norm, will flip and you'll have an ease and comfort. That's the basis, yeah? You'll have your spikes and your peaks and valleys, but the base will be an ease and comfort, not irritability, restlessness, and discontent. Yes? You will not be enslaved anymore. I don't know. Where am I? That's no point. I don't know. I have no idea. So I don't even care. That's the beauty of it. The beauty of it, when I leave Toronto, this will be totally forgotten. If you're truly present, you don't have memory of things, really. You know, I'll know I was here, but you can't do what happens here justice.
Well, AA says,
You just can't.
it says that, because I've gone to AA, it says that, you know, at some turning point in your life, when your life is totally unmanageable and sickness or whatever, something really devastating happens to you, that'll be a turning point.
See, that wasn't for me. For me, I had had all the bottoms, and they weren't sufficient to stop me. It was like a divine download. It was just a regular day at the office. I had accepted my lot, I really had. I was just trying to drink and stay unconscious until the next time I went to jail or died, or went to another institution. So I'd given up all hope. Yeah, I didn't. A lot of people get that. It's a turning point or a bottom that does it, but it wasn't for me. It was a different experience. I really was. It was just a regular day at the office. I was just drinking that vodka with the hope someone would come to that trail with some money and we'd cop some drugs. That was my plan for the day. And I didn't know where I was going to stay. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I was just surviving. And yet something interrupted that and had a different plan. Yeah? It's so beautiful, really. I mean, so beautiful because when you're convinced, when you believe with certainty, it really produces a large foundation, so life can really, a large life can be built on it. Yeah, you won't destroy it or blow it up. You'll let it's sort of like being on an operating table that you never get up from. Yeah, as long as you don't take yourself to be the doctor, you're fine. Just stay as a patient. Life's working on you. Yes, things are moving through. You're being used unbelievably. It's not. How can you? It's unbelievable what they say in AA. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable somebody who did what I did supposedly and lived like I lived gets to be used this way. It's fucking mind-boggling to me. It really is. Yeah. That all these, some of the worst things I ever did that I thought had no value became my most valuable asset when I work with other people in the same dilemma I'm in. This is like life is the greatest recycler if you surrender. Yeah, what you think has no value will be put to great use. It's freaking unbelievable. Yeah. We're looking at things seriously. I was looking at things from a very small point of view, a very claustrophobic point of view, an extreme self-centeredness. Yeah, it was suffocating. That aperture opened up, and now the possibility that there's no end to it. It just opens up, opens up, opens up, opens up, opens up, opens up. Yeah. And then what wasn't available becomes available because you're seeing now. Yeah. You're not in line. My day isn't navigated by my thoughts. I can't say what the navigation is. I don't care. I feel the navigation and I know it's so. And I know it's trusted, it's reliable, and that's all I need. Yeah? full speed ahead. I'm not looking back on a sideway. No, it's fine. It's convinced me. It's demonstrated enough.
I think that when you can see that you're, I think for me, I think my past thoughts dominate my day. I'm so wrapped up in what had happened in certain relationships and everything, and I'm so dominated, I'm so obsessed, so angry, that I can't be happy right now. How do I get to be happy right now? To let that go. I'm afraid to let go of that past.
Well, you know, that feeling of I'm afraid to let go of that past, you're not that I. That's afraid to let go. You're not the I that's afraid to let go. That's a thought, yeah? You're prior to the thought system. That's the only way it can be let go. You can't let go a thought from a thought. It's just a part of the chain of thoughts, yeah? There's no solution to a mental problem from the mentality that's producing it. The feeling of the I, that feeling of being you, the thinker, is a thought, yeah? So the thought can't let go of a thought. But what you are can let go of the thought, and where you let go of it is at the thinker point. Question, are you actually the thinker? If you're not the thinker, you'll lose interest in it. You'll lose interest in that thought that you're the thinker, and therefore you'll lose interest in the whole system of thought. But what's fueling the system, doesn't have a real energy of its own, it's your interest and attention. That's being given over to it because of your relation to it as the thinker.
Yeah.
Yes, just like all your actions, or you're in relationship to all the actions as the doer, you're in relationship to all the thoughts as the thinker. You go to the thinker, yes, just ask yourself, am I the thinker? Just see what happens. If they're not about you, or if they're, what I sort is in two ways. They're held either two ways. Either I'm the thinker of the thoughts, or they're about me. Yes, either I'm the object of the thought or the subject of the thoughts. I'm either the thinker or what they're about. Either way, you can look at it and just question either one, and you'll get relief. Once you get relief, it begets more relief. More gets revealed, and immunity builds. Yeah. So maybe there's 30 things that used to hook you, then there'll be 28 things that used to hook you, and then 25. And then you'll have a whole stretch where only 2 things hook you. Then there'll be periods where nothing hooks you. And then they'll try to sneak in the back door and try to hook you again. And so on and so forth. And the immunity will build. Yeah? And then what happens if you're not navigated by thought? Find out. That's the beautiful thing of life. You can't know. You're going to find out what it's like not to be navigated by thoughts. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question exactly the opposite of what the lady asked for. If you're absorbed by the thoughts about the future,
Yeah. But that's the exact same, actually.
yeah,
they're
but in
the same.
terms of you're thinking about the future, let's say possibilities or situations or whatnot, and basically based on your previous experience in the past,
Yes.
so then you're sort of end up planning and analyzing the future,
Yes.
positioning yourself in the future, but based on the experience in the past.
Yes.
How to handle these situations?
Same. Just look at the first thought, thinker. Yeah? Every thought is matched with one thought, which is I'm the thinker. Why go through the 800 links of the chain when you found the lock? The lock is the thinker point. Yeah? Question there. Don't worry about the thoughts or the quality of all the other thoughts. They're being given meaning from the thinker part. Yeah? The thinker is distributing the meaning, not the thoughts. The thoughts are like a vehicle. They're getting loaded through the bridge of being the thinker. Look at the thinker. Yeah? Just look at the thinker and ask yourself a simple question. Am I the thinker? Are these thoughts truly about me? Or are they about a thought? Yeah? Or a body? Because what they're picturing you is as a body in the future. Yes? Yeah. Just entertain it. You'll see. And more gets revealed, and you get your own flavor on how things work for you. But you'll really know it by the relief from it. Yeah? You'll get relief maybe a day, and you go, aha, that's the real. Honor that. Build a little mobile temple right there and then. Stop and pause and honor. I've had a break. You know what I mean? Because it's the mind and mind alone. The mind and mind alone is the freedom from the prison and the builder of the prison. It's the same. They help mind. Mind does it, not the thoughts. The thoughts are the vehicle. The thoughts allow the mind injects meaning into the thought, yeah? And then the thought, it opens up, and then the meaning springs out like a piñata that you hit with the conscious contact, but the mind has distributed a meaning to it. And that what you're getting is a projection of mind, yes? So we're questioning if the mind is doing that, yeah? If the mind is doing that, and one of the thoughts the mind is doing is the thought of being the thinker, yeah? And the only one that has a sense of subjectivity is the thinker, go there. All the other thoughts are looked on as objects, but the thinker is the subjective thought, that I'm the thinker. That's where the freedom is, yeah? I had the greatest demonstration because I listened to all these people who suffer from alcoholism, all these different hosts that were sitting with the same parasite, and all they did was share what it was like to live under that parasite, and I got it. And I realized it's a foreign installment. Yeah? All these things that I was calling my feelings weren't my feelings. They were being generated and interpreted by alcoholism. Yeah? In other words, my life was being seen through a very small prism called alcoholism, and I was taking it to be me. Oh, fucking incredible. And then that just led to see that prior to that is the original dis-ease, which is the mind's addiction to being a self. And all the obsession about you is just to reinforce the identification as that you're obsessed about. All the thoughts about you aren't truly about you. They're about reinforcing the identification as a you. Yeah. That's why you have 70,000 thoughts. I paint houses, right? It doesn't take me 70,000 thoughts to do a paint job. I walk in, I'm never surprised, there's usually 4 walls and a ceiling, a couple of windows and trim. I maybe need 15 thoughts, and maybe a few thoughts to go to lunch and what to eat. What are the 69,980 other thoughts doing? They're reinforcing the idea that I'm a self. Because why? What do they value? The past and the future. Self has to be remembered. How can you remember something that isn't here now? Well, you remember that it was here once and it will be here. Yeah? That's how you remember it now. It can't be experienced now. It can't be sensed now. The sense of it has to be produced by remembering it. So the mind remembers it, and then it produces a sense of being that self now, but that sense isn't coming from now. It's coming from there and then. That's why there's a solution. The now can override that preoccupation. If you're here, you have immunity to there and then. And I'm saying you cannot not be here. You don't have the power not to be here. The mind says it does. Says, I haven't been here all day. Yes, you have. If you looked at the surveillance cameras, when you're calling you have been here, you're on the film all day. Oh, I was really spaced out Saturday. No, you were there, believing you were spaced out. You cannot leave a moment that you're in. It's impossible. Without you, there ain't no moment. This is what it builds. It builds insane assumptions to verify I was there, I will be there, therefore I am here. It can't say, therefore I am here, from evidence. It has to go, I was and I will be. And that's its evidence. Yeah? So it has to forget the now and make there and then more important. Check the value system and the thought system. Check it. Feel where the value lies. You'll see it. Follow the money. It has a job. Not to promote happiness, goodness, and freedom. It's to promote a sense of self.
When you're at work, are you able to only think about work?
There's nothing to think about. Work painting is one of the least thought about things. You know? I'm usually zoning out. I'm usually listening to music. I'm not going, all right, there's, the theory of relativity concerning paint, yes. No, usually use a lot of music and hanging out. Yeah, no, I don't think about it at all. When I leave, I never think about painting. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, did you have a teacher to take you to this, to even be able to understand what you're talking about? Because I know, lots of people check out AA meetings and they don't talk like you.
Well, I had a lot of people. I got introduced to this idea.
Yeah.
You want to know a little history? All right. First, I got introduced to Course in Miracles a long time ago. Long time ago. Of course, I had a very, the understanding is always a work in progress, but there was some parts that were pretty good, hit me. And then in that time period, I heard that this message, this quote-unquote non-duality message, right, from a woman named Neelam. She was from Eastern Europe. I think she's still doing stuff in Colorado, but you couldn't even hear her, and she'd be talking in a park in Berkeley, and I didn't even need to hear her. It was just the possibility I was, picking up. And then I saw some other people. I went to India, listened to some people speak there. I read a couple of books, and I would entertain the possibility that was being offered. And I remember when I was reading, or somebody would say something, I had a lot of pauses, where the thought system, the selfing would be frozen. The statement was so a whole different way of logic, that it would freeze my mind, and in that moment, the original face was there, what I truly am, that space. And then I did that for a little while, and the emphasis of my mind shifted to a point where things that I was hoping would become clear were clear, and are clear to this day, because it's not an event, it's a possibility that's always available at all times, yes? And that's all. Just start entertaining it, and then I was doing workshops in AA, and it morphed into this. Then we set up a website, and then people like these poor people in Toronto called me up and asked me to come 4 years ago, and then I've been coming here and places. A lot of people go on a circuit like to Hawaii and stuff like that. I go to Staten Island, the Bronx, New Jersey. You know what I mean? I go with like Sopranos meet Eckhart Tolle. That's my audience. It's street level shit a lot of times. And then we've just been doing this for 4 years. With
So you can get there without a specific teacher?
no. To me, I don't see any. The only thing you can teach is about what you're not. You can't teach about what you are. To me, they're all inviters. They're inviting you, but what does the job is the mind. There isn't a message to get. The message triggers the mind to entertain a possibility. That's all it does. It's sort of like a catalyst. You ever have those when they have a nutritious thing, but the body doesn't. That's how a lot of other stuff happens to us. It's through repetition. So we're using what some people could say as a poison as an antidote. That's why you have these meetings, to have the message repeated, so that the mind, it'll be in a different state at a different time, and it could be at that right moment where it really sinks in. There's an unspoken yes or an aha, and it's a done deal, basically. Something happens, and now the rest of your life is a lightening up. Yes. There's only an allotment of 3 questions per person.
Okay. The last one or what?
Yes. Soup Nazi, you've had enough. No more questions. I've been on this 5 days, honey. I'm tired. It looks easy, but it isn't. I got to go to New Jersey tomorrow. Philadelphia. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just curious to hear your opinion. Having like the whole evolution of your thoughts, is it possible to achieve all the time?
No. I don't. This is the depths of the truth, right? The way it is right now. We're swimming in the depths of the ocean. This is exactly how mind wants it to be right now. And whatever's happening here, whatever ever did seem to happen and whatever's going to happen, doesn't affect the sky of mind one iota. It's not going to leave any marks on it. What you are, your mind is pristine in its and of its raw nature, and whatever has come to pass in these times and will come to pass will never leave an impression on it. Just like in the sky, you can have explosions. Do they rip the sky open? No. Yeah? When it rains, does the sky get wet? No. When a bird takes a shit, does it hit the sky? No, it lands on your car, right? The sky is open. It allows everything to happen in it, but nothing that happens in it affects it. That's sort of what the mind is truly like. What we're dealing with is a mental process that's gone wild. It's a mental process. It's not mind. It's produced by the brain. What's fueling it is mind, but the brain's production, right, has warped it and turned it into, instead of seeing life as happening, it sees life as happening to me. It's an incredible difference. Life is happening is so different than life is happening to me. Unbelievable. This is freaking just so, it's like an avalanche on you all day. You know? If something happens really good, you're afraid it won't stay. Yeah? Happens bad, it's going to stay forever. Have you ever noticed that? You're having a good time, the feeling is it's going to be gone. You're having a bad day, it's going to last forever. You have to see the biasness of what's interpreting your life. Do you want to live by that bias? Do you think a snake is going to change its characteristics, even if you feed it and treat it and buy it nice clothes? It's still going to bite you, inevitably. Because its nature is snake. This is a parasitical nature. It has no life, it claims yours. It takes what living is available and turns it into a mental interpretation. And then it returns it to you and bitches about it. And says you should be feeling great all the time. No, you shouldn't. Under that, you're lucky you're even fucking on your feet. You should be exhausted by the takeover and all the heavy meaning we've been giving everything all day. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I feel like I have 100 questions. I'm not even sure if I can explain, if I can articulate them. But I mean,
You're not going to get a chance. So forget about that. One.
I guess the first question that comes to mind is like, you know, I think about the future a lot, and I feel like I'm doing well in my life. Like I feel like I'm relatively successful because of the fact that I've been, you know, always so focused on the future. So for me to kind of accept some of what you're saying, it's almost like I have to abandon something which I feel like has gotten me.
No, you don't. You can plan for the future, but you're not the planner. That's all it is. It's not changing the thoughts, it's changing the thinker. Yeah? The thought system is thinking about the future, probably very logically and practical in your life. It's working, that aspect. But what causes it to have too much, like an extreme amount of meaning, is the thinker of it. Yeah? The thinker, that's all we're dealing with. We're not saying stop the thoughts or anything bad about thoughts. It's just the thinker lends a crazy system of mind and interpretation to download into your life. That's how it enters. Through this subjectifying one thought as being the thinker. Yeah? It allows this whole system of thought to download in your life. I don't like it, to tell you the truth. It wasn't satisfying for me. Yeah? I felt uncomfortable in my skin. I couldn't respond to unconditional love. People would say, Paul, you used to live on the edge, you were shooting, getting shot at and shooting up. No, know what living on the edge is being loved unconditionally. That would flip me out because of my beliefs about myself that I didn't deserve it. I'd do anything to get out of room of that. Yeah? This thing would interrupt so much of my life. It would take whatever's going on and veer it into something that it's all about me. It's not the thoughts, it's the thinker. It's not the feelings, it's the feeler. It's not the feelings I want to feel always great, it's the feeler that wants to have all the feelings feel great. That's where the bondage of self is. Yeah? If you're thinking about the future's works, far out. You have a workable, functioning system. Yeah? But the psychological aspect of behind that is driving you fucking crazy. Yeah.
Time.
Done in by it sooner or later. That's the position being the doer puts you in. Whatever you're doing, will you be done in by. If you're doing that you're a saint, you'll be done in by that. You'll probably have perversions and shit like that will start expressing that. You'll be living your life to save your face instead of your ass. This is about like a spiritual anatomy class. Let's see what your ass is. when I came into recovery, they told me, you gotta be willing to save your ass instead of your face. But I thought my face was my ass. That was the dilemma. The image I had of my head, of me, I was trying to save, and I was dying. I was fucking dead, saving this fucking thing. Yeah, that's called living a life for the parasite. And watching the hostess die and still aligned with the parasite that's killing it. I needed a divine intervention. A download occurred. I needed a power greater than that self, that idea of self, to come in. Because the only thing something that's addicted to power respects is other power. The parasite doesn't respect fucking nobility, doesn't respect spirituality, doesn't respect that you authentically want something to be better. It'll co-opt everything. Every message that's been beautiful in this world has been co-opted on some level, yeah? By the mind that's entertained it. But this is a power greater than it, and it stops it in its tracks. And you start building an immunity to that, yeah? So that future that's working for you, you'll be able to enjoy it. You're not going to acquire their certainty. You have to find it in and of yourself. You have to own it. Yes? So find out. Entertain if I'm not the thinker and I'm not the doer. Who is it anyway? Very nice question. Let it entertain it. Let it roll around in there. See what comes up. Yeah? See what comes up. And then it'll produce you'll have like an unspoken yes, and then that unspoken yes and then the convincing can grow around it, and you'll have a fucking stable basis of traveling later. Yes, not dependent on outside circumstances, situations, people, books, things like that. You'll be right where you are at all times because you'll be there. And that's the only thing that's worth its salt. You need to have that reliability wherever you are, in whatever circumstance. You can't keep going to contrived circumstances. They can help you and support you, but you can't live in them all day. Yeah? I can run a beautiful program from my bedroom, but it's in life that I participate in it. Yeah? Yes, back there?
I'll just before this last question, it's time, so if you want to just take this one last question.
Yeah, for sure.
You use the term self a lot. You didn't use the word ego.
No. I don't. Self, because for me it's a sense. Ego is sort of a mental activity that you think you have, yes? But the sense of self you don't think you have, you think you are. It's a much different beast. A lot of people think they have an ego, but the sense of self, they take that sense to be them. That's really where the bonding really is, in my view. It's a sense, it's a thought wrapped with a feeling. It's much different. I don't care about the ego, it's just a mental representation. What I care about is the identification with its true intent, which is this idea of being a self. It couldn't convince you with just a thought, it has to produce a feeling, yeah? Which is reinforced by the thought system. That's why it says sense of self, it doesn't say thought of self, it says sense of self. So you sense it. Every time there's an action, you sense that you're the doer. It's just a habit now, yeah? Every time a thought's seen, there's a sense that you're the thinker. Every time a feeling moves through the apparatus, there's a sense I'm the feeler of it. That's being produced by the identification as a self, which is a verb. There's no self called a noun, self, that you're identified as. The identification as a self is the whole verb. There is no self. There is no noun. The identification as a self is a mental process that produces the feeling that the mind takes to mean that it's a noun. That's exactly what it is. That's the bonding of self. The mind becomes bonded to the idea of a self, of being a self. A body, having a body, being a body, in a body, somehow. Yes, this is it. That thing is a very unusual bonding, so the glue has to be applied a lot all day. That's the thought system. The daily narrative is bonding your mind, the mind, to the idea of being a self. That's what it's doing. How does it do it? It remembers it. That's why it values the past and the future so much, because it uses both those places that are made up to remember what's made up, which is you. And when you remember you here, you forget what you are, because you can't entertain both at the same time. Yeah? You can't. Because what you are is truly presence, is the presence, and that will show the inherent absence of self. So the self is about denying that presence so that it seems to be present. Yeah? If they meet, one is seen not to be so. And I'm telling you, the meeting is always taking place. But it's not taking place this way, it's taking place on a different level. You're not seeing it. Yeah? Each moment there's a vertical insertion of what's actually happening in this horizontal story of me as an action figure living from the past into this present, into this future. We're not looking up. We're looking this way. We're being remembered, and then we're getting located here. Every moment there's a vertical insertion of what's actually so. Yeah, through the conscious contact. We're not noticing it. Because the way we're looking isn't built to see. We're looking for. And what are we truly looking for? Ourselves. Remembering. Forgetting. Remembering. Forgetting. That's why St. Francis says it's in self-forgetting that you wake up. That's why Dogen said the study of Buddhism is the study of the self. The study of self is to forget the self. Why would you want to forget the self? Because it can only be remembered. If you would stop remembering it, it wouldn't seem to be so, because it ain't. Yeah? It's such a beautiful... So, in a sense, this is inherently absent. It's an appearance, yes? Just like if I'm going to do this for 5 more minutes, right? I'm into this right now. Let's say here's this chair. So, you see the chair? Yes? Let's say this is a very specific, like this, it's fast, really fast, yeah? It's incredible. Unbelievable, really. It's like the greatest magical trick. It's here, and I go, oop, see? Look at how fast. It's like that. How did it fill up so quickly? It was like, there's no space there. Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah? So obviously, I'm appearing in space. This is an appearance in space, isn't it? What I'm saying is, we're the space that what we're taking ourselves to be is appearing in. We are this. Yeah? This is a projection of this. The mind wants us, the mental process wants us to take ourselves to be this projection. To do that, it has to forget this. How does it forget this? By constantly remembering this. By thinking about this in the past and this in the future. And that's that. So,